Former casino employees just revealed which slot machines actually pay out the best in 2025, and some of what they exposed includes tricks casinos hoped players would never figure out. And the last machine on this list, it exposes a loophole casinos have spent years trying to hide. Alright, let's get into machine number 1, which is called Super Hot Flaming Pots. This game keeps coming up in discussions with former employees, and for good reason. Developed by Every, formerly known as Multimedia Games, this slot represents a specific strategy shift in how manufacturers approached player retention in 2023. According to technicians who worked on these machines, the bonus trigger rate is set significantly higher than most modern slots. While your average slot might trigger a bonus round every 120 to 150 spins, reports suggest Super Hot Flaming Pots hits bonuses closer to every 80 to 100 spins. That's a massive difference when you're trying to stretch your money. The game uses what's called a low volatility model, which means instead of rare massive payouts, you get frequent smaller wins. People familiar with the system mentioned that this machine was consistently flagged in their systems as having above average time on device, meaning players were staying on it longer because they were actually hitting wins. The Progressive Pots feature gives you 4 different jackpot levels: mini, minor, major, and grand. But here's what makes it different from other progressives. The mini pot, which usually pays between $50 and $200, hits approximately once every 4 hours of continuous play. The minor pot, ranging from $200 to $1,000, hits roughly once every 12 to 15 hours of cumulative play across all linked machines in the casino. Insiders revealed that the hold percentage on this machine, which is how much the casino keeps over time, runs between 8% and 11% depending on the property. For context, most modern video slots hold between 12% and 15%. Those few percentage points translate to significantly more playing time for your money. The game also features a fire mystery symbol that can randomly transform into any paying symbol, and this symbol appears far more frequently than similar wild transformation features on competing games. One detail that former slot managers shared is particularly interesting. Super Hot Flaming Pots was specifically placed in high-traffic areas at several properties as a test to see if a looser machine in a premium location would generate more overall revenue through volume rather than hold percentage. The results were significant enough that other manufacturers started copying the approach. And that's exactly why former casino employees list Super Hot Flaming Pots among the best slots to play in 2025. But if you think this machine was generous, wait until you hear about the next one. Machine number 2 is Piggy Bankin' Breakin'. This one has a fascinating history. The original Piggy Bankin' machines from the late 1990s were designed by WMS Gaming and became legendary in skilled player circles. These machines had a visible progressive meter where a cartoon piggy bank would fill up with coins on screen, and once it reached capacity, the next spin automatically triggered a bonus that paid out the accumulated value. The problem for casinos was that opportunistic players figured out the system. They would walk the floor looking for machines where previous players had built the piggy bank close to full and then left. These skilled players would sit down, invest minimal money, and collect bonuses that other players had essentially funded. Some players were making consistent profits doing this. Casinos eventually pulled most of the original machines because they couldn't prevent this exploitation without fundamentally changing the game. Piggy Bankin' Breakin', released in 2022, brought back that same core mechanic, but with critical updates designed to prevent advantage play while still maintaining player appeal. Here's what makes it special based on insider reports. The game still has a progressive element where a piggy bank fills up on screen, but now there are multiple piggy banks tied to different bet levels. If you're betting at the minimum level, you're building a different bank than someone betting at maximum. This prevents players from swooping in on a nearly full bank that someone else built while betting higher amounts. Former technicians explained that the trigger point for the piggy bank bonus is now partially randomized. The old version had a fixed fill point, but the new version can trigger anywhere between 75% and 100% full, adding an element of uncertainty that discourages advantage play. However, and this is key, the overall math of the game still favors more frequent, smaller payouts over rare, massive jackpots. According to statements, the average piggy bank bonus on this machine pays between 20 and 60 times your bet amount, and these bonuses trigger approximately once every 90 to 120 spins. The game also features a Breaking the Bank Hammer bonus, where you smash piggy banks for instant credits, and insiders mention this feature has a minimum guaranteed payout that's higher than similar pick-style bonuses on competing games. One former casino surveillance operator shared that they still occasionally catch hardcore players trying to exploit these machines by tracking the piggy bank meters, but the randomized trigger has made it far less profitable than the original version. Still, the underlying design philosophy of frequent medium-sized payouts remained intact, which is why regular players continue to perform better on this machine compared to high-volatility alternatives. But the reason this machine matters even more becomes obvious when you see what casinos do next, how they link certain game types together in ways most players never even notice. Machine number 3 is Ultimate Fast Cash. Ex-casino managers said that this machine has one of the fastest hit frequencies in modern casinos. Hit frequency is the percentage of spins that result in any win at all, even if it's less than your bet. Ultimate Fast Cash reportedly sits around 35 to 38% hit frequency, meaning roughly 1 in every 3 spins gives you something back. Compare that to machines running at 20% or lower hit frequency, and you can see why your money lasts longer here. This isn't accidental. The game was developed by Aristocrat Gaming during a period between 2021 and 2022 when casinos were desperately trying to win back customers who had gotten used to playing online slots during pandemic shutdowns. Online slots typically feature faster gameplay and more constant wins to keep players engaged in a home environment with countless distractions. Former employees mentioned that Ultimate Fast Cash was specifically designed to compete with that online experience while still maintaining casino profit margins. Quick question before I explain how they pulled it off. Did you play online slots during COVID? If you did, please subscribe and tell me in the comments. Now, here's the solution casinos used. The solution was to increase hit frequency while decreasing average win amounts. You're getting paid more often, but each individual win is smaller relative to your bet. However, the psychological impact of frequent wins keeps players in their seats longer, which is ultimately what casinos care about. The Fast Cash feature is where this machine truly differentiates itself. This is a randomly triggered instant credit award that doesn't require you to enter a bonus round or hit any specific combination of symbols. According to insiders, the random number generator on this machine is weighted to trigger that feature more often during the first 100 spins of a session. This is a calculated tactic called the honeymoon phase, designed to hook players early with wins and create an emotional attachment to the machine. People who worked on these machines shared that the Fast Cash awards typically range from 10 times to 50 times your bet, with an average around 25 times. The feature triggers approximately once every 40 to 60 spins during that initial honeymoon phase, then gradually adjusts to once every 80 to 100 spins after you've been playing for a while. This variable reward schedule is based on behavioral psychology research that shows intermittent reinforcement creates stronger gambling persistence than consistent rewards. The game also features a free spins bonus that's triggered by landing 3 or more lightning bolt scatter symbols. What makes this bonus different is that wild symbols that land during free spins remain sticky for the duration of the bonus. Most games reset wilds with each spin, but Ultimate Fast Cash accumulates them, which increases your win potential as the bonus progresses. Insiders mentioned that the free spins feature averages around 40 to 70 times your total bet per trigger, with the potential to reach several hundred times your bet if you collect multiple sticky wilds early in the bonus. One particularly interesting detail shared by a former slot director is that Ultimate Fast Cash machines were initially placed near table games to capture players who were taking breaks or waiting for seats. The fast pace and frequent wins made it an ideal time killer, but casinos discovered that many players were abandoning table games entirely to play these slots instead. This led to some properties moving them to less strategic locations, which means if you find one near a busy table game area today, it might still be set to those original more favorable settings. But the next machine takes this idea even further. and casinos discovered its cultural twist can be downright hypnotic. Machine number 4 is Dancing Drums Link. This game comes up constantly in forums where ex-employees share insider information. Released by Aristocrat in 2021, Dancing Drums Link is part of the Lightning Link family of games, which revolutionized the hold and spin mechanic that's now become industry standard across most major manufacturers. The Link feature is what makes it special. When you hit the Link bonus, which is triggered by landing 6 or more golden coin symbols anywhere on the reels, you're playing for one of 4 progressive jackpots: mini, minor, major, and grand. But more importantly, you're getting a hold and spin mechanic where every symbol that lands adds to your total and resets your remaining spins back to 3. This continues until you either fill all positions on the screen or run out of spins. And here's why that matters. Technicians who service these games revealed that the minimum number of spins you're guaranteed in this bonus is higher than most Link-style games because of how the symbol distribution is weighted. In a typical hold and spin game, you might trigger the bonus with 6 symbols and only land 1 or 2 additional symbols during your spins, resulting in a modest payout. Dancing Drums. Link's random number generator is programmed to increase the appearance rate of coin symbols once you're in the bonus round itself. According to data shared by insiders, approximately 40% of Dancing Drums Link bonuses result in landing at least 10 total coin symbols, compared to around 25% for similar mechanics on other games. This matters because each coin symbol has a credit value attached, and the more symbols you collect, the higher your total prize. The game also features special dragon symbols that can appear during the hold and spin. Landing a dragon awards you one of the progressive jackpots immediately without needing to fill the screen. Reports from ex-insiders suggest the grand jackpot on Dancing Drums Link hits more frequently relative to its size compared to other progressives. While a machine might advertise $1 million top prize that statistically hits once every few years, Dancing Drums Link's grand typically sits in the 5-figure range, usually between $10,000 and $40,000, depending on how long it's been since the last hit. According to former progressive coordinators who understand how these networks function, this jackpot hits multiple times per month across a major casino property with 50 to 70 linked machines. But there's an entire layer to this game that most people overlook. The cultural element I mentioned earlier is significant. Dancing Drums features Chinese-themed music, symbols, and aesthetics that specifically target Asian casino demographics. Marketing directors admitted that Asian players, particularly those from China and surrounding regions, show significantly higher engagement with games featuring cultural familiarity. The drums in the soundtrack aren't just thematic, they're mixed at specific frequencies that research has shown increased dopamine response in listeners, creating a more immersive and emotionally engaging experience. One detail that former slot technicians shared is that Dancing Drums Link machines often have their denomination settings configured differently than surrounding games. While most machines might offer bet ranges from 40 cents to $4 per spin, Dancing Drums Link often starts at 88 cents, a number considered lucky in Chinese culture, and goes up to $8 or higher. This higher minimum bet generates more revenue per spin for the casino, which is why they can afford to set the game with better odds than lower denomination alternatives. Former employees also noted that these machines are almost always placed in clusters rather than spread across the floor. This is intentional, the social proof of seeing other players winning on nearby dancing drums. Link machines creates a psychological pull that increases overall action on the entire bank of games. But there's a sister game to Dancing Drums Link that former workers say actually performs better mathematically, especially during specific times of the year. Machine number 5 is Spooky Link. Similar to Dancing Drums Link, but with a horror theme, this machine has been highlighted by former staff as having extremely player-friendly bonus mathematics. Released as a seasonal variation of the Lightning Link formula, Spooky Link maintains the core hold and spin mechanic, but adjusts several variables that make it more favorable for players. The hold and spin feature triggers more frequently than Dancing Drums, according to comparative data mentioned by insiders. Where Dancing Drums Link requires 6 golden coin symbols to trigger, Spooky Link only requires 5 of its themed symbols. which are typically pumpkins, ghosts, or haunted house icons, depending on the specific version. This single symbol difference translates to the bonus triggering approximately 15 to 20% more often based on probability mathematics. Former slot attendants stated they were called to pay out hand pays on Spooky Link machines more often than almost any other game on the floor. A hand pay is when you win enough that the machine locks up and an attendant has to come verify and pay you directly, usually wins over $1,200. The fact that these hand pays were happening frequently means players were consistently hitting significant wins in the $800 to $2,000 range. But that's not even the most unusual part. The spooky wheel feature in the bonus round reportedly has better odds of landing on the higher multipliers compared to similar wheel mechanics on other machines. Most wheel features are weighted heavily toward the lowest value segments. A typical wheel might have a 60% chance of landing on the minimum multiplier, 30% for medium values, and only 10% for the high end. According to former employees who had access to the par sheets, Spooky Link's wheel is weighted closer to 40% low, 35% medium, and 25% high. That difference might seem small, but it adds up fast. One particularly interesting aspect is that Spooky Link machines often have their settings loosened during October in the lead-up to Halloween. Casinos discovered that the themed nature of the game generated significantly more play during the Halloween season, and by temporarily improving the odds during this period, they could capitalize on the increased traffic while building player loyalty. Some properties would advertise these machines as special Halloween promotions without explicitly stating that the odds had been improved, creating a win for both the casino and informed players. The progressive jackpots on Spooky Link are structured slightly differently than Dancing Drums Link. The mini jackpot typically starts at $25 instead of $50, but it also hits more frequently, sometimes multiple times per hour on a busy machine. The grand jackpot is usually smaller, ranging from $8,000 to $15,000, but several employees said that it hits roughly twice as often as Dancing Drums Link's grand when comparing equivalent-size casino installations. Former floor managers also shared that Spooky Link machines were often used as testing grounds for new bonus mechanics before rolling them out to other games in the Lightning Link family. This meant that some versions of Spooky Link had experimental features that were more generous than intended, and before casinos realized these features were too favorable, players had windows of opportunity to exploit them. These windows usually lasted several months before new software updates rebalanced the games. But here's what connects to our next machine, something former employees say represents a fundamental shift in how classic games are being reimagined for modern players. Machine number 6 is Triple Double Moolah. This machine is interesting because it's a remake of a classic formula that casinos already knew was popular. The original Triple Double Diamond slot was one of the most played mechanical reel games in casino history, known for its simple gameplay and decent payout potential. When IGT decided to create a video slot version with an updated theme and enhanced features, they faced a challenge. How do you improve on a beloved classic without alienating the core audience? Former casino managers explained that when a machine gets a refresh or remake, the manufacturers sometimes increase the RTP, the return to player percentage, as an incentive for casinos to buy and place the new version on their floors. Triple Double Moolah reportedly launched with an RTP around 94% to 94.5%, which is strong for a Vegas-style slot. For context, many machines on casino floors run between 88% and 92%. Those few percentage points make a significant difference over extended play. Let's break down what that actually means in practical terms. If you're playing a machine with 90% RTP and you cycle through $1,000 in total bets over several hours, you can statistically expect to have around $900 returned to you through wins. At 94% RTP, that same $1,000 of action returns $940. That extra $40 might not sound significant, but it translates to substantially more playing time and more opportunities to hit bonus features or jackpots. The triple-double symbols that give multipliers on your wins appear more frequently in this version according to reports from technicians who compared the par sheets. In the classic version, landing a triple symbol gave you a 3x multiplier, and landing a double symbol gave you 2x. If you landed both in a winning combination, you'd get a 6x multiplier. Triple Double Moolah maintains this system but adds wild multiplier symbols that can reach 5x on their own, and when combined with the triple or double symbols, can create multipliers up to 15x or even 30x in the right combinations. Former IGT technicians said the real strips on Triple Double Moolah use a technique called near-miss balancing. This is a psychological technique where losing spins are programmed to land just one symbol away from a big win more often than pure randomness would suggest. While this doesn't change the actual odds of winning, it creates the perception that you're constantly almost winning, which keeps players engaged longer. Some jurisdictions have regulations against extreme near-miss programming, but within legal limits, Triple Double Moolah uses this technique more aggressively than most games. The free spins bonus on this game has no cap on retriggers, meaning you can theoretically keep winning additional free spins indefinitely. Insiders mentioned the free spins feature is triggered by landing 3 or more scatter symbols, which happens approximately once every 160 to 200 spins. Once you're in the bonus, you start with 8 free spins, and landing 3 more scatters during those free spins awards an additional 8 spins. The game doesn't artificially limit how many times that can happen, like some other slots do. Former employees shared stories of players hitting retriggering chains that extended to 50, 80, or even over 100 total free spins in a single bonus round. During one documented session at a major strip property, a player hit 17 consecutive retriggers, playing through 136 total free spins and winning just over $14,000 from a $2 bet. While this is obviously an outlier, the fact that the game doesn't cap retriggers means these massive wins are mathematically possible rather than programmatically prevented. One detail former slot directors shared is that Triple Double Moolah machines were often placed in areas of the casino that management wanted to revitalize. If a particular section of the floor was seeing decreased foot traffic, they'd install a bank of Triple Double Moolah machines and let them run at their standard settings, which were already favorable. The reputation of the game would draw players to that area, and once there, those players would often spread to surrounding machines as well. This strategic placement means if you find Triple Double Moolah in an odd or out-of-the-way location, it's likely set to standard settings rather than being tightened to compensate for premium placement. Now, the next machine I'm going to tell you about is the one that caused actual legal problems for 3 state gaming commissions. Machine number 7 is Buffalo Gold Revolution, and this is the one I mentioned at the start. Former employees from multiple casinos have stated this machine has been removed from some properties specifically because it was paying out too consistently and cutting into casino profits. To understand why this matters, you need to know the history of the Buffalo series. The original Buffalo slot, released by Aristocrat in 2008, became one of the most successful slot machines in casino history. Its popularity was built on a simple but effective formula: stacked symbols, frequent free spin bonuses, and the potential for massive retriggers during the bonus round. Buffalo Gold, released in 2013, enhanced this formula by adding gold buffalo symbols that acted as multipliers during free spins. Buffalo Gold Revolution, released in 2020, took the mechanics even further. All 5 reels now contain buffalo symbols, whereas the original Buffalo Gold only had them on 3 reels. This seemingly small change dramatically increases your chances of triggering free spins. According to former technicians, the probability of triggering the free spins bonus jumped from approximately once every 180 spins on Buffalo Gold to once every 120 to 140 spins on Revolution. But here's where it gets interesting. The gold buffalo symbols that multiply your wins during free spins appear far more frequently in Revolution. In the original Buffalo Gold, these multipliers were relatively rare, appearing on maybe 10 to 15% of free spins. In Revolution, according to par sheet data shared by former employees, gold buffalo symbols appear on 25 to 35% of free spins, and they can award multipliers of 2x, 3x, or even 5x. Former floor managers stated that the average free spin bonus round on Revolution pays between 60 and 120 times your total bet, with significant potential to reach several hundred times your bet if you hit multiple retriggers and collect several gold buffalo multipliers. Compare this to the original Buffalo Gold, which averaged 30 to 50 times your bet per bonus, and you can see why Revolution became problematic for casinos. The situation escalated when advantage players and professional gamblers caught on to how favorable the mathematics were. These players developed strategies of moving from machine to machine, playing only until they hit one bonus round, then moving to the next Buffalo Gold Revolution to hit another bonus. By cycling through multiple machines and only playing the high-probability pre-bonus spins, they were able to generate consistent profits. Casinos in Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and Louisiana, according to reports from former regulatory compliance officers, either removed these machines entirely or required manufacturers to provide software updates that adjusted the bonus trigger frequency. Some gaming commissions investigated whether the machines had been improperly certified with payout percentages that exceeded what the casino's license allowed for that floor location. The legal situation got messy because Aristocrat maintained that the machines were operating within all certified parameters, while casinos argued that the real-world performance was generating returns to players that exceeded the theoretical RTP by several percentage points. This discrepancy happened because the combination of stacked symbols, multipliers, and re-trigger potential created a scenario where skilled players who understood the math could outperform the theoretical return by making optimal betting decisions and timing their sessions strategically. One former slot director from a major tribal casino shared that their property lost over $200,000 in a single month from professional players targeting Buffalo Gold Revolution machines. The casino's solution was to reduce the number of these machines from 40 down to 8, place the remaining machines in a high-limit room with minimum bets of $5 per spin, and install surveillance specifically to track players who were cycling between machines. Despite these countermeasures, Buffalo Gold Revolution remains one of the most player-favorable machines on the market, assuming you can find one that hasn't been relocated or had its settings adjusted. Former employees mentioned that some properties still run the original configuration in low-traffic areas, where management assumes advantage players won't find them, which creates opportunities for informed regular players. But there's a specific type of slot machine mechanic that several insiders told me represents the future of how casinos will try to balance player satisfaction with profit protection, and the next game demonstrates this perfectly. Machine number 8 is Wicked Wheel. This machine has a fascinating feature that represents a new approach to managing player psychology while maintaining casino profit margins. The wheel bonus game mechanic has been around for decades, dating back to the iconic Wheel of Fortune slots, but Wicked Wheel introduced algorithmic adjustments that former technicians say changed how these games operate behind the scenes. Here's how it works. The wheel bonus triggers when you land 3 or more wheel symbols on the reels, which happens approximately once every 100 to 130 spins, based on reports from former employees. When you enter the bonus, you spin a large, colorful wheel that's divided into segments showing different credit prizes and multipliers. Pretty standard stuff. But here's the part that makes Wicked Wheel different. Former slot managers explained that the wheel uses something called adaptive outcome distribution. Basically, the machine gives you slightly better odds the first time you hit the bonus after not playing for a while. The algorithm tracks whether you've triggered the wheel bonus recently, and if it's your first time in a while, the odds shift slightly in your favor for that first spin. This isn't a massive change, but according to technicians who access the back-end systems, the probability of landing on the lowest value wedge drops from around 35% to around 20% on your first wheel spin of a session, while the probability of hitting medium value wedges increases proportionally. The game defines a session using your player's club card data combined with time gaps. If you haven't played the machine in several hours, or if you're a new player sitting down for the first time that day, the system recognizes this and makes the micro adjustment. This is legal in most jurisdictions because the overall RTP of the machine remains unchanged across thousands of spins. You're just getting a slightly better distribution of outcomes during your early engagement with the game. Why do casinos allow this? Because behavioral psychology research has shown that players who win early in a session play significantly longer and wager more total money than players who lose consistently at the start. By giving players a better experience in their first wheel spin, the casino increases the likelihood that the player will keep playing, and over an extended session, the house edge reasserts itself through volume. According to former employees, the Wicked Wheel Progressive may be smaller than some of the huge top-end jackpots out there, but it hits roughly twice as often as similar machines. The jackpot typically ranges from $500 to $3,000 depending on how recently it's been hit, and insiders who worked with these linked systems said it usually resets every 15 to 30 hours of cumulative play across the connected machines. The base game on Wicked Wheel also features something called Mystery Multiplier Wilds, which are wild symbols that reveal random multipliers when they contribute to a winning combination. Former technicians mentioned these multipliers range from 2x to 10x, with an average around 4 to 5x. The frequency of Mystery Multiplier Wilds appearing is higher than standard wild symbols on most games, showing up roughly once every 20 to 30 spins. One particularly interesting detail shared by a former casino analytics manager is that Wicked Wheel was specifically designed to appeal to players transitioning from table games to slots. The wheel mechanic mimics the tactile experience of watching a roulette wheel or Big Six wheel, creating psychological familiarity for table game players who might be intimidated by complex video slot bonus features. Casinos discovered that placing Wicked Wheel machines near their table game pits significantly increased slot play among customers who previously only played table games. Former surveillance staff also noted that Wicked Wheel machines were popular targets for teams of advantage players practicing something called bonus hunting, where they'd track machines across multiple casinos and identify specific units that seemed to trigger bonuses more frequently than statistical probability would suggest. While casinos insist that each spin is random and independent, some players believed certain machines had favorable variance patterns based on when they were last serviced or updated. Whether this was real or confirmation bias is debatable, but the fact remains that Wicked Wheel machines attracted this kind of attention, which suggests players perceived them as beatable. And speaking of machines that players believe have exploitable patterns, the next slot is one of the oldest games that insiders say refuses to die because casinos keep it around specifically as a retention tool for a very particular type of player. Machine number 9 is Scarab. This Egyptian-themed slot from IGT launched in the mid-2010s and continues to stay on casino floors. Not because it's the flashiest new release, but because players keep coming back to it. In an industry constantly chasing bigger graphics and louder features, Scarab's staying power is something worth looking into. The standout mechanic here is the Wild Stays, Charges Then Pays feature. Scarab operates in 10-spin cycles, and every beetle that lands during those spins leaves a glowing frame on the reels. On the 10th spin, every framed reel position transforms into a wild symbol. This creates a kind of slow-build anticipation that modern fast-paced slots rarely offer, and former technicians said this mechanic alone is what keeps players locked in for long sessions. The game also includes a free spins round triggered by the pyramid scatter symbols, where you choose between multiple preset combinations of spins and wilds. For example, more spins with fewer wilds or fewer spins with more wilds. Retriggers are possible, which is part of why Scarab bonuses tend to run longer and feel more rewarding than modern games with strict bonus caps. Former casino hosts noted that Scarab was one of the older titles that consistently showed a larger share of players cashing out ahead. The core reason is simple. The base game has a noticeably higher hit frequency than newer high-volatility slots. Technicians estimate Scarab hits somewhere around 1 win every 3 to 4 spins on average, which keeps bankrolls alive and players engaged without the brutal dry stretches many modern games are known for. The Egyptian theme also plays a role. Former marketing teams said older players, especially those 55+, strongly gravitate toward Egyptian-themed games because they associate them with the classic Vegas era of the 70s and 80s. This demographic loyalty is a major reason casinos keep Scarab alive even when newer games cycle in and out. Slot directors even admitted that Scarab is often kept in service as an anchor machine. Players who come specifically for it will wait around nearby, often playing other machines until a Scarab seat opens up, which boosts traffic for entire floor sections. Because Scarab runs on older IGT software, it uses fixed probability tables rather than adaptive algorithms that adjust based on player behavior. Insiders say this can actually benefit players. The game is predictable, steady, and less manipulative than newer titles with dynamic volatility. Reports indicate the bonus feature triggers roughly once every 140 to 180 spins, and while the average payout is usually in the moderate 50x to 80x range, the combination of strong base game performance and wild accumulation mechanics gives Scarab one of the most consistent long-term profiles of any older slot still in rotation. Now, what's interesting is how this older game philosophy contrasts with our next machine, which represents modern slot, design at its most refined, combining elements from multiple successful games into a single powerhouse that insiders say performs like 3 different machines combined into one. Machine number 10 is Wolf Run Gold. The Wolf Run family is one of IGT's longest-running success stories, and the Gold version is the one former casino employees consistently recommend because it improves on the original without breaking what made it popular in the first place. The very first Wolf Run became a hit thanks to its stacked wilds. Those tall stacks of wild symbols could fill entire reels, and when they did, you'd hit multiple paylines at once. Wolf Run Gold keeps that system and refines it. Former technicians explain that the reel strips on the Gold version were redesigned to place more wild symbols on the center reels, especially reels 2, 3, and 4, which are the ones that create the biggest line hits. You don't get constant wild screens, but players who've spent years on both versions consistently report that Wolf Run Gold produces noticeably more strong line hits. The free spins feature also received an upgrade. Instead of Wolf Run's usual 5 free spins, Wolf Run Gold starts you with 8, and that difference matters. Former slot attendants said players regularly walked away from Wolf Run Gold bonuses with 2 or even 3 times the average win of the original because of how frequently stacked symbols appear during the feature. The Howling Wolf animation, which adds extra wilds, also triggers more often in the Gold version, giving the bonus a smoother, more rewarding feel. Another detail shared by former employees is how casinos actually used Wolf Run Gold. When casinos wanted to revive dead zones on the floor, areas where players rarely stopped, they would install a bank of Wolf Run Gold machines. The game had a strong enough reputation to draw players over, and once players were in that section, they would sit down at other nearby machines too. This is why you'll often see Wolf Run Gold in prominent walkway locations. Casinos depend on it as a reliable anchor game. The denomination setup is also important. Wolf Run Gold is commonly found with bet ranges between 80 cents and $3 per spin. Former technicians mentioned that many casinos configured the higher denominations with slightly better return-to-player percentages. That doesn't mean the game is loose, it just means that players betting bigger usually get slightly more favorable long-term math, a standard practice on many IGT video slots. If you ever see 2 Wolf Run Gold machines next to each other with different minimum bets, there's a chance the higher denomination version is marginally better. What really stands out, and this is something multiple former employees confirmed, is that Wolf Run Gold never attracted heavy advantage players. It doesn't have visible progressives or predictable cycles that can be exploited. It's simply a well-designed game where regular recreational players enjoy strong, consistent sessions, which is exactly the type of machine casinos keep around because it appeals to a broad audience without giving away too much. And that brings us to the final machine, one that takes a celebrity licensing deal. Machine number 11 is the Britney Spears slot. Celebrity-themed machines usually exist for one reason: brand power. Casinos know fans will play them no matter how tight they are, which is why most licensed slots run below average RTP and lean heavily on flashy visuals instead of fair odds. The Michael Jackson slot, The Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, almost all of them are programmed tighter than non-licensed games because the casino is paying royalties. But according to former casino managers, the Britney Spears machine ended up being an unusual exception, and it all comes down to the way Aristocrat's licensing deal with Britney's team was structured. When the partnership was negotiated, her management reportedly pushed for specific performance safeguards to ensure the machine wouldn't develop a reputation for being a rip-off associated with Britney's name. This kind of clause isn't common in licensing agreements, but insiders say it forced Aristocrat to build a machine that held up competitively on actual casino floors instead of relying purely on star power. As a result, the Britney Spears slot generally runs with a slightly higher RTP range, often around 92% to 94% depending on the casino, several points better than most celebrity-themed games that usually sit in the high 80s. To support these performance goals, Aristocrat pulled mechanics from some of their most popular titles. The main bonus, Hit Me Baby One More Time, blends enhanced free spins with stacked wilds that can appear on all reels, not just selected positions. 3 or more microphone scatters will trigger the feature, and former employees reported that the bonus frequency sits in the same range as Aristocrat's mid-tier performers, roughly once every 100 to 130 spins, with average payouts that feel competitive instead of disappointing. There's also the Oops I Did It Again pick bonus, triggered by CD symbols, which insiders say is more evenly weighted than typical pick-and-win features. Most pick bonuses heavily favor low prizes, but techs who worked on the Britney cabinet said the distribution curve here is noticeably less punishing, giving players a fair shot at medium or high-tier rewards rather than funneling them into minimum payouts. The audio-visual package is another reason the game performs better than most licensed slots. Instead of generic sound-alikes, it uses actual Britney music tracks and high-quality concert footage, which former marketing staff said dramatically increased player engagement and session length. When players enjoy the presentation as much as the gameplay, they stay at the machine longer, and that alone boosts a slot's overall performance. One interesting detail shared by a former slot director is that Britney Spears machines were originally placed in premium floor locations to maximize visibility. Normally, casinos tighten machines in these high-traffic areas, but in this case, they couldn't push the hold percentage too far without violating the performance expectations built into the licensing deal. This led to a strange situation where a highly visible, heavily promoted slot was actually running looser than the machines around it. Sharp players noticed quickly, and some began targeting Britney machines across multiple properties because the returns were noticeably better than most licensed titles. Former technicians also mentioned that Aristocrat periodically refreshed the Britney machines with new song rotations and software updates to maintain engagement, something that's extremely rare for celebrity slots, which usually remain static once installed. Internal analytics shared by ex-employees showed that Britney Spears consistently ranked in the top 15% of licensed games for repeat play and session length. That combination, strong engagement, solid presentation, and respectable RTP, makes it one of the surprisingly player-friendly machines on casino floors today. Now here's the part that ties all of this together and that most players completely miss. Even knowing which machines have better odds isn't enough if you don't understand timing, placement, and bankroll management. These 11 machines I just covered all have better mathematics in your favor, but casinos still control where they place them, when they adjust them, and how they use them strategically across their floors. The best time to play any of these machines is during the first few hours after a casino opens in the morning, typically between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. Why? Because casinos run comprehensive performance reports overnight that analyze every machine's activity from the previous day. These reports show which machines paid out significantly and which ones held more money than expected. Based on this data, slot technicians may make adjustments to rebalance the floor. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe and drop a like on the video for more casino insider breakdowns.